Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. Today on the show, I'm very excited to bring to you a review that I've been waiting for a few months now. This is a movie that I am so glad got a restoration and a 4K remaster, and I actually got it a couple days early. I actually got this a few days ago, but because of work and everything, I was not able to watch it until now. But I watched it not too long ago, and I have to tell you that I am very glad to bring you 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece, in now fully restored in 4K. This is the little, I don't know if it's a collector's edition or not, but I pre-ordered this months ago on Amazon, and this is the back of it. I'm going to kind of show you really quickly what it looks like. It has this red in the back, and this actually comes off. I'm going to discard that for a minute, and you can see the picture of Dave in the main frame of Hal in the back here. I'm going to kind of show you the inside. Since this doesn't come out until tomorrow, I'm actually kind of excited to bring you an early look here. But you can see there's the inside 2001. There it is, the inside of it. That's just the case that the discs are in, and it also comes with this little envelope here, if you can see it, and it has these little stills and a booklet about the movie. Again, I'll very briefly kind of show you what the booklet looks like, talking about the film, all these beautiful pictures and artwork. It's basically just an art book with stills from the film and storyboards and stuff like that. It's very fascinating. And here is the little, I mean, they're almost like little lobby cards almost, which I think is really cool, with stills from the film. Some of my favorite shots from the film actually are in this, especially that one. I love that shot there with Dave. And some really great stuff. And this is a hell of a set. I pre-ordered this. It was only like 20 something bucks when I pre-ordered it. So it's really great. The set itself is a 3-disc set with the 4K disc, and then it actually has 2 Blu-rays. It has the newly remastered movie on Blu-ray as well, so it's not the old disc, it's actually a completely remastered version on Blu-ray, for those of you that were wondering. And then there's a 3rd disc with the special features. Now, the special features are all holdovers from the prior release of the film, and that is actually kind of cool. I like the fact that they included all the old special features. There's a bunch of documentaries, some conceptual artwork, stuff like that. Really nice stuff. There's a Kubrick interview that's included as well. That's only audio, but that's really nice stuff. I'm glad they put that in there. But I'm really going to talk about the new 4K disc today and the complete restoration that was done of the film, audio-wise and video-wise. I got a chance to see this restoration in IMAX a few months ago, and I didn't review it on the channel because I kind of wanted to wait for the 4K so I could talk about both. But the 4K restoration, the new, I should say, they're calling it a de-restoration. It's kind of interesting. They really went back and tried to make the movie look as clean as possible, but also make it look like the movie the way it would have looked like if you saw it in 1968 when it came out. And they did a phenomenal job. The restoration on this film is one of the best, if not the best, I've ever seen. The movie looks basically pristine. It looks like it could have been made 3 days ago. It is absolutely stunning to see some of the detail you can see in this new version. Going back and forth between this new version and the old Blu-ray that was included in a Stanley Kubrick set that I got many years ago, you cannot even compare the two. They are completely different looking movies. Some scenes have a drastically different color palette. The one thing that has changed with this new 4K is that the clarity is mind-blowing. It is absolutely 100% pristine. There is a very fine layer of film grain throughout the movie. It is so fine you can barely even notice it. It is amazing the kind of detail they were able to drum up in this new restoration. It is amazing. The scenes where they are approaching the moon base, you can actually see little portions in like the space station where there are people moving around. I have seen this movie damn near 20 times at this point, and I have never noticed that until I went to go see it in IMAX a few months ago, and it's even clearer on the home video format that I have here. It is crazy that a movie from 1968 can hold up as well as this does. I was beside myself at times. The opening Dawn of Man sequence is stunningly beautiful. The colors of the sunrises and sunsets, the faces on the early, cave, I don't want to call them cavemen, but the early man people that you see in that sequence, the detail you get on the faces, the teeth, the gums. I mean, you can really see details that I have never even picked up on before. Even on Blu-ray, it is such a drastic change. It is almost like watching the movie for the first time all over again. When you start to get into the space sequences, it becomes even more apparent that they have done an amazing job. The special effects somehow still look absolutely beautiful. Even though there are certain shots where you can tell it's a 2D kind of picture floating, and you can kind of tell sometimes, but for the most part, the visuals are still stunning, and they are still at a point where I was in awe of what I was looking at. And the fact that they made this thing, 50 years ago, it just boggles the mind. I cannot understand how they were able to do some of these effects in camera these many years ago. It looks absolutely like no other version of 2001 I've seen, and I've seen this movie on every format you can imagine. I remember watching it on VHS when I was a kid, and then going into DVD, and then Blu-ray, and now this new 4K, and it is incomparable to anything I've ever seen. Totally not comparable to anything. You can pick up on colors that are on the dials, and even the little, it's crazy. Again, I could go on about this for hours because it really did blow me away when I was watching this last night. There were little panels on the ship. There are these little things with like inscribed instructions on them. You can read them. You can read them clear as day now, and the print is sometimes yay big. It's sometimes so small, and I don't have to even pause the movie to read them. You can see them. Like, it says stuff on there. Little details like that really show that when Christopher Nolan was supervising, I don't know if you guys know this, Christopher Nolan was supervising the restoration of this, and his love of the film really shows when they did this. I mean, it is astoundingly gorgeous. On top of that, they took the original soundtrack and kind of remixed it and redid it for 5.1. Now, there is also excuse me as I check this, I just want to make sure I'm also correct here, but there's also an original audio soundtrack as well that has been left basically untouched, and you can play that as well. I actually really like the new original mix that's been kind of remixed for 5.1. I actually really like that mix. It still sounds unbelievably clear. The surrounds really do a lot of work in that mix, and you can also get a lot of nuances from dialogue and stuff, which are very clear and centered very well. The disc as a whole, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you here, it is probably the best movie that I own in 4K. It takes a lot for me to say that, and I've said it a couple times here and there where, this movie looks great, it's one of the best, I've said that a lot. Even The Big Lebowski, which I was very surprised by how good that looked. This disc here is probably the best I got. In terms of older films, hands down, it's the best I have. For a filmic experience, this disc is second to none. There is nothing I own that even comes close to it. Some of Christopher Nolan's sets, some of his movies in that set, especially Dunkirk, I mean, that movie is definitely an amazing film experience. This here, I think because of the movie itself and because of its history and just how much reverence this movie was shown in this 4K set, this is probably the best this movie ever will look. It's definitely the best I've ever seen it. Also, something else that's interesting is that this disc, even though I find it funny that on the back of the box here it doesn't say it, but on the outer sleeve, the movie is also in Dolby Vision. And the Dolby Vision on this is incredible. Black levels in this are perfect all throughout, absolutely perfect. I didn't see anything that was even off by a tiny bit. As I mentioned earlier, the colors on this disc are truly outstanding. It is a subdued color palette because of the way they tried to make the movie look. But when you start to get into the space scenes and the very bright whites, especially this sequence when Dave is in the spaceship going through the areas there, and when he gets into the thing and it's that deep red, those colors are absolutely just, I mean, they are amazing in that Dolby Vision. I did not watch it on HDR10, but if the Dolby Vision looks as good as it did, HDR10 is probably going to look, amazing as well. As I mentioned, colors are absolutely gorgeous. The black levels are absolutely perfect. The sound is, again, just at the top of its game. Again, it's not an extremely environmental sound. It's not Dolby Atmos. It's just, I think it's just DTS 5.1. Yeah, it's DTS HD 5.1. But the mix is still extremely loud, and it is definitely a very, very clear mix, and I thought it was better than the older Blu-ray. I absolutely loved it. I mean, this is hands down an achievement for the format. I highly, highly recommend you get 2001: A Space Odyssey on 4K. In terms of older catalog films, I know nothing to even compare it to. It is in a league of its own. And my hat's off to Warner Brothers for releasing one of the most incredible discs I have ever seen in the history of home video. Just absolutely fantastic, A+ all around. And something else, just a minor little thing to mention, the menu on the disc is really, really cool too. The menus are actually pretty cool. The menu is the little console that's in the spaceship that Dave and company are in. And that is really, really cool. It's a neat disc. I absolutely loved it, and I give it my absolute highest recommendation. It's one of the best I've ever seen, if not the best I own. Thank you very much for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner. I hope you enjoyed this early review, and for more reviews like this, come on back to the channel, subscribe, and hit that thumbs up button. It helps me out a lot. And I'll see you next time. Good night.